On June 16, 2018, I come back from work and open the door of my house at the time and see my partner sitting at the table in tears. I decide to come rapidly close to her and she looks at me and says, "Romain, it's over." I was completely in shock. This is something that I really didn't expect. And so I pretty much sit down immediately and reflect on what the heck is going on and what happened. In this video, I'm going to be bringing you with me through this raw, unscripted, one take only experience on what have been some of the pivot moments that led to this situation, but also share with you what I think is a really good way of managing money as a couple in a way that works for both parties in our current society, with the pressure that many of us are feeling with the economic situation. I am currently middle class, and so I'm going to be speaking from that point of view. But I believe that my idea is applicable to every walk of life. And so if you guys are interested, I invite you to follow along through the story as I describe some of those highlights that really impacted the way I look at money today. For that, I want to bring you back into the root of it. I arrived in America at 23 years old and I meet this French woman here in Las Vegas. I have a job. I'm making about $45,000 per year. She is in a fairly unstable situation, going through different jobs. At the time when I meet her, she was working at Bath and Body, Beyond, whatever. And our relationship starts very nice, young, experiencing. We were first living in two different apartments and very quickly we moved together about 6 months in. The way we've organized money early on was pretty much 50-50. Now, I had paid for first dates, of course, like you may expect, and I would kind of go a little bit sometimes beyond with paying for restaurants. But when it comes to rent, well, it was 50-50. When it comes to grocery expenses, it was 50-50. I was making quite more money than she was. But there was no power dynamic between us, you know. She was making her money, I was making my money. It was kind of a regular couple, you may say, in a way. And I'm not coming from crazy money, so it's not like I could afford a massive lifestyle. It was just a, 25-year-old lifestyle that you may expect from someone making $56,000. At some point, there were multiple moments in our life that kind of pivoted everything. At night, 7 p.m., I'm driving my Mitsubishi Mirage. I go with her to soccer. She was coming to see me playing soccer at night. We go through a red light. I stay, and then the green light comes in. I cross through a street where I have a full green light, being the first car. And it's a really quick flash that I'm describing to you guys. There is a car now that's coming on my left, hitting me at 50 miles an hour. I fall into a coma. I wake up on the side of the street, on the side way, completely confused about what the hell happened. And then I shut down again. And I wake up a few days later at this hospital with massive head concussion. I don't know what's going on. I keep repeating myself to the point at which I regain control. And at the time, my partner is on my right-hand side when the accident arises. So the car hits us on the left. She's on the right side. I, bounce on her. She gets injured slightly as well. The person that actually hit us was drunk, with no insurance, no driver license, the worst case that you can think of, no assets. So that's where I want to bring quickly a first sidetrack is looking at your insurance and make sure that you have a good uninsured, underinsured to match bodily injury. I'm not an insurance guy, but I can tell you that I like at least $50,000 to $100,000, preferably $100,000 to $300,000. Match your uninsured, underinsured with your bodily damage. I had the state minimum because I wanted to save money. I had no clue. So $160,000 debt comes into play. Now, a lot of it gracefully was taken care by my health insurance at the time, but we have a case now. We have a case where we're going to try and sue the other guy. We know there was going to be a little bit of money here as I was pretty drastically injured and I'm still feeling some of those sequels today, sometimes waking up with electrical shocks on my left chest. It's not the heart, we checked on that. But anyway, so there was money that was going to come into play. My partner at the time was really shocked about the incident, and I couldn't understand it because I had passed out and I don't remember what happened. But she was fully conscious through the whole thing. From that point, I kind of gained back control to life a few weeks later. And she is slightly falling behind, which means that she wasn't able to come and contribute towards the rent. She wasn't able to come and contribute towards groceries. And so knowing myself that I was pretty firm on a 50-50, I started to open notes on my phone and track what was the money that she would owe me, right? Because I had to then take care of the finances while she was kind of getting herself back on track. This started our downfall because now there was a power dynamic between us, and it became a little bit almost like an obsession over time, where I would keep track, guys, and I've evolved since then, but a young mind, I would keep track of, groceries. Hey, we've spent 110. Here is 55. Let me add it to the total. Over the course of our time following the incident, we've run to a total of $11,000, which at the time, guys, I wasn't making big bucks. It was massive for me. And it's still, I'm sure, for many of you. This notion and power dynamic started to drastically impact the way we would think about adventures, because then I would keep track of what's going on. And we've kind of lost a little bit our sense in that. And there was one specific moment that may seem benign, but that really, it really changed a lot, I think. She wanted a burrito that night, one of her favorite burrito. And at the time, we were not pressured about money, but I was like, all right, maybe we should start considering paying back some of that debt. It seems so stupid, but I feel even ashamed speaking about it. She wanted avocado on it. And I said, maybe not this time, let's not take avocado. It's an extra $3. We shouldn't do that. But that described the extent at which I was conscious about money, when we could very well afford something like this. And so as time evolved and we continues to go through that, I'm starting to feel that our relationship now becomes more monetary in a way than anything. There was always kind of this notion about, oh, well, there you go. I put an extra $20. That brings it to $8,347. And that, I think, put a lot of pressure on her because she didn't have the funds to go behind that. And on top of that, I had encouraged her to get back into her studies because she wasn't really finding fulfillment in minimum wage jobs. So I would contribute to paying her studies. And then the spiral kind of kept going to the point at which the component around money blocked us. There was really no solution out for her despite making great efforts. I was pretty strained with having this money back to me because, well, I had to pay for all of that and make the efforts. And I think this was the cherry on top that really started our downfall. So I'm exposing here myself to showcase to you true experience about how it's tricky, guys. Money was a really important factors in how mismanaged or misinterpreted with a first event that wasn't really of our decision, right? Everything was cruising, everything was nice. Drastically switch the way our life trajectory evolved. So over the course of those different relationships that have gone through that, I've really reflected on what I believe is the right way in our current society to interact with money as a couple. And so please allow me to share with you my take on this, because I've tried so many different strategies, from being a full provider to actually going 50-50, separate of accounts, join of accounts, let's have a couple fund, let's have X, Y, and Z. Here is my take. I think right now that in society, middle class, we are falling into a rhythm where there is a necessity in our society for both individuals to work. Today, as I look at my peers, as I look at people that I used to work with at Amazon, despite very high income, well, there is lifetime inflation, but there is also the need for people to have double income. That's just the way life is, especially in America, where everything kind of falls under your own responsibility. How do I think about managing that dynamic with potentially two salaries? I like to refer to it as the ratio strategy. What that means is that whether it's the woman, male, whatever you want to interpret it as such, vice versa, it's about the amount of money that each is making, contributing towards the common bills. Okay? So let's say my partner is making $50,000 per year and I make 100. Again, vice versa. If the bills come to, let's say, $120, right? My ratio is then 66% and she's at 33 because I'm making twice as her. So out of the $120, she's going to be responsible for 40 and I'm going to be responsible for 80. The way this plays out is the impact in percentage, not in number, in percentage is hit the same way for each party. Now, how does this take place into real life? Well, when bills comes together and the total amount is being set of what needs to be allocated for assuming the needs of the family, then the subtraction is made, right? I contribute 80, she contributes 40. We go together into what I refer to as a couple fund, right? And that couple fund allows us to assume our lifestyle without having the pressure of one another to feel like we are always kind of chasing who is going to be paying X, who is going to be paying Y. And there is a sense of fairness and mental stability that is really nice because with that, she has still her own money to go and experience whatever she has a desire for while still assuming the needs of the couple. Same goes for me. You know, I have full incentive on continuing to, potentially increase my salary to allow myself more of that discretionary income that we all want to spend on hobbies. This money then comes into a couple fund that gets paid towards needs of the couple, but also towards some of the wants as well. Let's say we go to the restaurant. Although I must be fully transparent, recently it's true that I've been doing decent financially through some of my side businesses, not YouTube, as you guys know. So I've been able to, pay for some restaurants and little ventures that we go together. But at its root, I think that there needs to be responsibilities for both parties. What happens when there is the case of children? And there is right now massive video that is going on Twitter with over 115 million views that speaks about the dynamic between a husband and a wife with regards to work, with regards to household tasks. Here's my takes on it. At the end of the day, it's all about having a certain balance, okay? Where not one contributes to this and the other contributes to this and vice versa. Okay? And that balance is not purely achieved simply of monetary or financial contribution. It can also be from household, day-to-day living tasks that needs to take care in the house. An example that I would want to share potentially is lately I've been extremely busy with work. Extremely. My weekly is at about 60 to 70 hours a week right now. My partner has been working a little bit less. And so I've been having to have a discussion with her and say, hey, I need your help right now on tasks around the household. I'm pushing really hard for work. Could you be please compensating with me with helping me around some of the household tasks so we kind of continuously find that balance? Now, there is never going to be that perfect hit, right? But what we want is to constantly approach that into a dynamic where both of the elements in the couple do balance with some of the tasks that doesn't have to be purely financial. There is a strategy that I've been wanting to employ that I want to share with you. I think that's could be amazing with enhancing communication in a couple is think of it, I'm a number guy, with the number 100. Let's say a couple comes back from work I come back and I say, hey, right now I feel like a 20. Okay. Well, that means that the 100, which is the task that needs to happen, needs to now fall on the partner, which has to do 80. So this way, it's not going to be always that perfect balance of like the 50-50 with regards to task and finances and everything. It feels like, all right, you're 20, I'm going to come in at 80. But then maybe tomorrow I am at 20 and I want you to be the one that kind of comes through. We need to have communication in couples. We need to have communication about finances in a relationship. Now, I don't have children. And, I can only speak from experience looking at my peers. I think that this can also be quite taxing, and generally it falls under the woman's responsibility. There is kind of this inverted responsibility that falls on women when children comes into play. And then I think we have to, guys, think about that ratio, right? So what does that mean? Does that mean a greater financial kind of contribution from the husband or greater in the household? You have to think of those elements together, not just fiscal, but together in contribution also on invisible things as well. Over the course of time, I think that having this mindset will allow you the chance, like it did for me, to find a sense of peace and fairness. Now, this stories is not going to speak to every person that's watching this. Some individuals want to be taken care of financially. Well, it's not a concept that I'm against it. You're giving me $10 million and my partner is, wanting to explore her hobbies that may not provide much of a financial outcome. But rock and roll, I'm not against that. But like many of you watching, I am middle class. And right now, I need and I expect my partner to provide her fair share of what she needs to do for us to be able to have a balanced lifestyle. And I think that employing this strategy in your couple could provide you with that outcome. I'm really looking forward and interested to get your thoughts about this strategy. I'm not saying that this is the one. I'm just saying that over the past years, I've been able to dive into so many different ones. And finally, I found that this one not only allows for great communication, great fairness, but it also gives a common goal to achieve, because at the end of the day, money is important, but money is simply a tool. And ultimately, no one is ever going to give a damn about how much you guys are worth on your bank account when you're on your deathbed. But it's going to be about the experiences, the emotions, and the life that you've lived. So don't overpressure yourself to have it right, because I did not. And allow yourself the grace to experience like I did. And maybe this video gave you a chance and an idea for something to work in your couple when things actually truly matter. Thank you, guys.